And here we go again with the tasks. So this time it's all about the premium tasks. Where's the best place to start with the premium tasks, and how do you complete them in the best way? I'm currently here at the Old Fortress, still doing a few other tasks, so non-premium tasks, but I've already been able to complete a few premium tasks just on the side. So let's take a look. From 1 to 7, we'll check out all the tasks one by one, starting off in the premium section with Stage 1, Task 1. Here we have this one, and it says catch a fish of at least 1.2 kilograms using an insect bait. What are insect baits? That's relatively simple. We take a look here and then we just check in these texts where it says insect. Well, and then it's just written right there what counts as an insect. And conveniently, these insect baits are down here. There are a few more of them. Great baits, also for fishing at the Bayar. Not too long ago, I even made a separate video starting with float fishing at the Bayar. So you can easily do this with a very simple, cheap Bolognese setup at the Bayar. Catch a fish of at least 5 kilograms. Well, that just happened for me by chance. I was already at the Old Fortress, half AFK, just testing out a few baits here, and bam, of course, an Amur or something like that comes in. That's definitely going to happen by chance when you're at Bear Lake, fishing with different baits, maybe targeting a golden tench. You'll definitely just catch a 5-kilogram fish on the side. That really shouldn't be a problem at all. Yeah, task 1.3 now gets a bit more complex and will probably take a bit longer. Catch rainbow trout, lake trout, brown trout, and savan trout at the quarry lake. We'll do that together today, so on this Sunday, also in the live stream. Rainbow trout, you'll need a bit of patience for those. They're relatively tricky to target directly, so the best thing is to go trolling, ideally with relatively small lures. Lake trout are pretty much always biting. It's not about a certain size here, just the fish species. So lake trout won't be a problem at all. Savan trout, they're not that easy either, but they'll bite now and also quite well on top water lures. And the brown trout, you'll find them every now and then at quarry where the waterfall is. So when you're standing on the bridge by the waterfall and casting towards the waterfall, basically in that area, that's where you'll find the brown trout. For example, here we have a specimen. Blue Marlin caught a brown trout here. With that, he also completed all the tasks. On a relatively light, simple setup with a small Pomor spinner, just like that. So really nice and small, relatively light fluorocarbon leader, and that's just here in this area. And like I said, it works well in this spot, or even right back here when you cast into this back part where the waterfall is. Let's move on to the next tasks. That's stage 2, task 1. Catch 6 fish species, each weighing at least 1 kilogram at the Sura. It doesn't matter at all which fish species, doesn't matter what setup, so we have all kinds of options. You can of course do some great trolling at the Sura. You can also fish on the bottom, just give it a try. On the Fire Robin YouTube channel, there's the complete playlist for the Sura, and there are plenty of ways to catch fish there. You can target roach up front, or rudd, and of course you'll also get gibble carp and crucian carp up front in the pond, or common carp and zander, or stone loach and pike and catfish, and so on. There are also asp there. So there are so many ways to catch a fish at the Sura, and of course all the other carp species and sturgeon species too. There's also sterlet, so an incredible variety. One of the best ways, I think, is just to use a size 1 hook with a night crawler, cast it out into the 70-meter hole, for example, and then you'll probably catch the first 3 or 4 fish species, and then you slowly make your way through the rest. The task is also really exciting. That's task 2.2. Catch 12 fish species using a pole rod and a line with a strength of no more than 2 kilograms. That's pretty tricky, but also a lot of fun. You can really enjoy it, targeting all the small fish species. So we'll go in with very, very small baits or does, a size 24 hook, for example, and then we use things like bloodworm paste or mayfly paste or a fly, and then we target the smallest possible fish. Task 2.3. Catch 8 fish species, each weighing at least 2 kilograms, in the listed waters using an ultralight, light, or medium light spinning rod or casting rod. So here it's again about spinning and using a line with a strength of no more than 5 kilograms. That's important too. So here it's really about light, fine fishing. And I've already done a bit of that. I've also fished like that at the Volkov, so I took my ultralight rod and used a 5 kilogram mainline, and that's what I fished with. The leader, by the way, was thicker than the mainline because of course there's always the chance that a pike might bite. So the mainline was 5 kilograms, the leader was, I think, even 15 kilograms, way over the top, but as I said, it should be pike proof. And then we have 4 waters to choose from: Kuori, Volkov, Sura, Bayar. And I'll be doing a lot of it at Kuori as well, because it's going to be relatively easy there, even if the fish are a bit bigger, just to tire them out. Because we have this restriction up to medium light fishing, you can also easily complete this task with the classic billet setup, and you'll have hardly any trouble catching a 2 kilogram fish like that. Next up is Task 3. Task 3.1. Catch a bream weighing at least 2.5 kilograms at the Volkov River or the Sura, using a picker rod or a feeder rod. At the Volkov, it's actually pretty classic to catch bream there regularly. I'd probably also go to the Volkov, most likely to the coordinate 71-100. That's a very classic spot. If you cast about 20 meters out there with a size 1 hook, pea paste, dungworm, garlic dough, mayfly paste, then you've already got a wide range of different baits. And of course, also with a ground bait mix. And naturally, also at night, just the classic bream fishing. If you're not familiar with bream fishing, definitely check out the tutorials. They're usually at the old fortress because bream are regularly caught there. But of course, you can also do this at the Volkov. Catch a pumpkin seed of at least 300 grams. Yeah, that's task 3.2. Also really exciting. Pumpkin seed works really well at the Donets, right up front at the dock. That's a great spot for it, fishing with a pole. But of course, also with a wacky rig. And you catch them really well with various worms. And I can also really imagine that especially the new worm types work really well. Galzer caught his pumpkin seed on a wacky rig. So the classic setup, size 6 hook, 2.5 kilogram line, and the Nestler worm. So that worked really well. 300 grams pumpkin seed. Yep, not too small. I think a size 8 to size 6 hook is definitely a good idea, and that's at coordinates 25-143. Devilis has also been fishing here and caught a 400-gram pumpkin seed using the loop rig. So just caught on the bottom, super simple setup, just using the Sorrento. That's the cheapest bottom rod in the game, with a size 20 hook and compost worm. All of that up here at 39-132. Catch a trophy at the Windenbach, Mosquito Lake, or the Old Fortress. At the Windenbach, a lot of gudgeon are being caught at the moment. That would definitely be an option, maybe even going for gudgeon trophies, maybe even with an ultralight setup, and ideally also with a pole. That way you can complete multiple tasks at once. That would definitely be a realistic way for it to work. Otherwise, sleeper goby, I caught that by chance while fishing at Mosquito Lake. And that was even on river mussel meat, totally over the top. I was just testing a bit looking for koi, and then suddenly the sleeper goby came in. Galzer also caught some really nice fish here. This is the spot I just mentioned. So Nav Galzer also caught some really nice gudgeon here, using a size 22 hook, garlic dough as bait, just on an ultralight pole, and then right here at the coordinates 73-86, so between the bridge and the island. And that's where the gudgeon trophy was caught. Let's move on to stage 4, task 1. Catch 10 fish species at night, each weighing at least 1 kilogram at Ladoga Lake, the Sura River, or the Donets River, using an ultralight, light, or medium light rod. We can see in the details exactly when it's considered night. That's written down here. The night is from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. Within that time, we have to catch these fish. And of course, it's a good idea to go for things like zander at the Sura, or stone loach, or burbot, which we can also catch really well at night. Catfish, of course, we can also catch really well at night. And when we move away from spinning, we can also continue with light and medium light rods. So, of course, float fishing is also possible here. It's always about what's required in terms of rod strength. So when it says light, medium light, or ultralight, we need a rod with the appropriate strength. That has nothing to do with the bottom light category. Bottom light just refers to records, meaning that for bottom light fishing, the reel size must not exceed 3,000. So as I said, for this task, it's the rod strength that counts, not what's written here as the line strength. Catch a silver carp and a big head carp at the Sura. No weight requirement. That's fantastic. You can even catch them simply with a night crawler. Although the silver carp is a bit trickier to catch, there are also real hotspots for it in the Sura playlist, with the right ground bait mix and the right baits for silver carp fishing. At the Donits, silver carp usually bites well on spring herbs and grass pellets or boilies right near the dock. So, as I said, ideally, check out the silver carp fishing video at the Sura. Catch a rudd or a whitefish weighing at least 1 kilogram at the Sura, Octuba, or Donits. Not much more than that. Yeah, relatively easy. So just head to the Sura, go to the pond, the lake, and at coordinates 4545, use a grasshopper or a fly. That's always a really good way to catch rudd there. Level 5, Task 1. And let's take a look at what we have here. Catch all the listed fish species at Lake Ladoga or the Ladoga Archipelago. A Volkhov whitefish, a fox whitefish, a Ladoga whitefish, a Valam humpback whitefish. Okay, that also takes a bit of time. That's actually not so easy, just catching a Volkhov whitefish like that. That will take time. Fox whitefish, definitely an option, especially at the Ladoga Archipelago. I actually made a video there like 1 or 2 weeks ago. Directly at the lighthouse, there was a spot. Ladoga whitefish is no problem at all. Valam humpback whitefish could also be a bit tricky. Yeah, but the hardest one will definitely be the Volkhov whitefish. We've seen that from time to time over the past few months. And there were slight tendencies that apparently the Volkhov whitefish tends to bite more in bad weather, so like when it's raining. So definitely an option if you haven't caught one yet and you're still looking for it. Maybe try specifically during rainy weather. But yeah, it's definitely not that easy. Then we move on. Level 5, Task 2. Catch an asp or a burbot weighing at least 4.5 kilos in the rivers Volkhov or Sura. I think I'll try that first with the asp. And here we already have an asp catch. Down here even on 2232, not bad either. Trakaropi caught his asp here. I would have automatically walked up here to this area, exactly here, like in this area. Here we often find dead trees in the water, and here you can catch asp really, really well with topwater lures. It always works really well. Let's take a quick look. Yeah, he also caught it with a topwater lure with the Angry Walker. I think it was the XW007, the white one. That one also works really well again and again. So that's definitely an option. Here even with 7 kilograms, so an excellent nice big asp caught here. That's really fun, of course. If spinning isn't really your thing, you can also try it really well with fish pieces or with bait fish. Just be careful there, because a really high chance that you'll also get catfish, especially at the Volkhov and the Sura, not so uncommon. And we're heading back to the Sura for task 5.3. Catch 8 fish species with a float rod, each weighing no more than 100 grams at the Sucha. Well, again, very clearly, very small lures, very small hooks, and then with all sorts of small baits. So bloodworm larvae, caddis fly larvae, fly, and various dough baits. Mainly, of course, start at the pond, but then also try again in the flowing water, and specifically at the edge of the flowing water. Try that. That should work pretty well. I think the tricky part will be that you actually get a fish weighing less than 100 grams. That's not exactly easy either, but when you go at it with really small baits, it should work. Then we move on to level 6, task 1. Catch 14 fish at Lake Bear with a bottom rod. For that, you really don't need any special skills. Just put different baits in the water, and it goes really, really, really fast. I used earthworm here, compost worm, garlic dough, bloodworm larva astrakhan, compost worm, also oatmeal, honey dough, egg dough, sweet dough, raspberry, corn, and also coconut cream boilies. So you can catch lots and lots and lots of different fish with so many different possibilities. What's maybe a bit special is the roughy on egg dough, but of course you can also catch it with worms. So just experiment and test as many different baits as possible. Again, use small hooks because here it's not about the weight. Catch an Atlantic salmon weighing at least 8 kilograms at the Volkhov, Lake Ladoga, or the Ladoga Archipelago. Of course, I'll do that at the Ladoga Archipelago because that's where you get the biggest salmon. That's level 6, task 2. And that really means first checking and testing which baits work. For that, let's definitely take another look at the records. And we can see pretty clearly that really nice big salmon are caught on the deep runner. So off to the archipelago. That's where you catch the biggest salmon by far. Catch 15 fish species with a float rod using larvae at Lake Ladoga or the Ladoga Archipelago. Yeah, you can definitely combine that nicely too. So if you're maybe still missing a few fish at the archipelago, then maybe go back to Lake Ladoga and catch a few missing fish there. So again, it's about the fish species. Use tiny hooks, put larvae on them, so things like a caddisfly larva, mayfly larva, and stonefly larva. That's usually the best bet because those are the common and typical baits that always work well. And if you're still missing 1 or 2 fish, then just use other types of larvae and test those. Ideally, you can also try that in shallow water, in the shoreline area. That way you'll also get a few different fish. Especially at Lake Ladoga, you can maybe also catch a gibbocarp or a common carp. So, relatively easy fish. Level 7, we're already at 7 with task 1, and that is, catch a pike weighing at least 10 kilograms at the Sura, Lake Ladoga, or Ladoga Archipelago. If while you're searching for the salmon, you happen to get a pike, that's great, but otherwise, just try different spots at the archipelago, because that's also where the biggest pike are caught. Also, maybe just take another look at the records, see which lure is currently working best. Otherwise, at Lake Ladoga, a jerkbait is definitely an option. That also works directly at the lighthouse. I wouldn't try it at the Sura though. There you get too many bycatches. But maybe you know some cool spots at the Sura for pike. Catch 2 trophy fish with an ultralight rod. When we complete the non-premium task beforehand, we get an ultralight float rod at the end, and that even with a load capacity of 3.5 kilograms. So that should definitely be enough for fishing for gudgeon and bleak, for example. And I would actually recommend exactly that for this task, because those fish are among the easiest to catch as trophies. Catch 3 rare fish species at Amber Lake or Copper Lake. That's actually not that hard either. For Amber Lake, it's best to take a look at one of the videos, like Mass Fishing at Amber Lake. There are lots of videos, beginner-friendly videos even, without bait mixes, just using corn mostly, where you really go for frequency. And by doing that, if you're already farming a bit of silver and XP, you'll also catch the occasional rare carp. And of course, that also works really well at Copper Lake, because there, at various spots, you'll also get koi carp, or even the C2 super freak from time to time. Those are rare fish too. And when we finished all that, we get another ultralight spinning rod at the end. Also really nice. And there's also a very special fishing reel, a Tagara 6000 in a special edition. A 6000, of course, is super practical, 18 kilogram load capacity, so a really nice piece of gear. And as I said, also optically, in a special version, the Tagara. Yeah, and then you're done with that. And still, you have to say, it's probably not going to be that easy. So the tasks in the premium area, they are really quite tough. You really have to put in a bit of time, or just spend an hour a day on these tasks and say, come on, I'll do the tasks for an hour a day, and the rest I'll just do for fun. And then you'll definitely be able to finish these tasks over the next, 50 plus days. If it helped you, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That really helps me a lot. And then I'll see you in the next video or in the live stream. Until then, tight lines.